Welcome back, everyone, to Capital Conversations. I'm your host, AJ Smith, and today I am joined by Josh Schubert. Josh is out of Warminster, Pennsylvania. I think I said that right. He's going to correct me when he comes on. But Josh is a great guy. He's been crushing it in commercial real estate and in residential real estate. Last year, he bought about 50 units and he's burring them and he's doing them solo. So Josh is joining us today to talk a little bit about his adventures and to share some more information about how he's done it, what he's looking to do next, and where he's going. So Josh, without further ado, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, AJ. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So just, if you would, give us your origin story. How did you get here?
How did I get into investing in real estate?
Yep.
And so it's interesting, I've always been in business, right? So, I started working when I was around 13 years old, saved up tons, saved up all my money, really. Bought my first house when I was 21 years old. It was a 4-bedroom townhome up here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And at that time, the goal was to, I had 3 roommates move in. They paid their rent, paid the mortgage and bills. Really, I was living rent free. So back when I was 21, I'm 43 now. I was house hacking, right? And I didn't even know what house hacking was. And my goal there was to, have them pay that down, pull some money out, buy the next one, and just keep going. Well, 2008 happened. And that kind of crushed that dream a little bit. And, just life got in the way a little bit. So I just continued on. I had kids, got married, life got in the way, which I don't mean that in bad terms. Beautiful things happened. You know what I mean? I have a wonderful family. And later on, during COVID, once COVID happened and I'm a chef, I'm in the restaurant industry, working these, 70, 80 hour weeks, not really seeing your kids and your wife, and you're just working all the time and, paying the bills and doing all these different things. I was finally able to be home. So the restaurant was only open at nighttime, and I really, really, really enjoyed that. I liked being home. I liked, seeing my kids during the day. I wasn't just, it wasn't just get up in the morning, come back at night and really no time. So at that point I decided, I'm just going to dive into real estate. So, because it was something that I always wanted to do. So, first thing I did was I went to a Ron LeGrand course. He flew me out. I flew out to Texas, took a course for a week with Ron LeGrand, learning about seller financing and sub two. And, I got myself a mentor and I tried that, right? But I wasn't really having any luck. So I went to, that was about, I think that was 2020. I did that for a year, cold calling, doing all these different things, and it just, nothing was working, but I knew I wanted to be in this industry. I just always enjoyed real estate. So, I saved up, I got my first, rehab, fix and flip. The market was going crazy. I got it in Philadelphia. I fixed the whole thing up, and then, the market comps kind of went down. So I pulled that, I rented it out, pulled the money out and bought another one. And then I started, learning from other people in all these groups, Pace Morbley, and I got myself into, my first million in multifamily and started meeting all these great people like yourself, and saw that there was a whole other side to this game, this industry that I really didn't know. And through talking and learning, I decided that I didn't want to be in a single family home. I wanted to be in multifamily. So from there, the money that I pulled out, I, decided then what I was looking for was cash flow. And the reason I was looking for cash flow is because I wanted to replace my income as a chef so I could do this full time. A lot of people will go into it, looking for, looking at the equity part of it. Me, I needed cash flow. So, I had all these people around me, all these wholesalers, and, I'm listening and taking everything in and learning as much as I possibly can. I had a wholesaler send me a deal in Pennsylvania. And I looked at it and I was like, this seems like an interesting place. I know about Pittsburgh, you know, how Pittsburgh is turning it around. Baltimore is not far from me, you know, and this is a city right outside of Pittsburgh. So if people are spending big money in Pittsburgh, I figured eventually it's going to kind of work its way out into the suburbs and closer cities. So I talked to tons of people in the area where I started to invest. Um, and I bought my first triplex there for $40,000. Yeah, it was $40,000. I fixed it up. It was worth and once it was fixed up and fully rented, it was cash flowing me over 2,000 a month. I pulled my equity out of it and I bought four more and did the same exact thing, pulled it out and just kept going. So I was closing around three units a month at that point. Again, they were all duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes. And last year I was able to get myself up to 55 units. I'm on pace this year to double that. I want to triple it, but my goal is to triple it, but I'm on pace right now to double it. So that's where I am with it. That's kind of how I got there.
So 55 units, and it sounds like it's that classic story of you're finding a market that's booming or it's had some level of growth, and you're identifying markets outside of it that might be growing in the future. And from there, those properties have increased in value. Now, one of those duplexes or triplexes, you bought it for like 40 grand. What is the market appreciated for in the past like year?
I mean, I bought that for 40 and it's worth 150,000 now. You know what I mean? And I'm able to continue to keep doing that. It's interesting because the area that I do the majority of my investing in right now, it's a lower income area. I've learned that in the lower income areas, the renters to homeowners, the ratio is between 6 to 1 to 8 to 1, right? So there's no shortage of renters, right? I look at what their income is, and I look at what their population is, right? I look for lower income areas, but the areas that are not filled with crime. You know what I mean? I mean, every city has areas in it that are, you know, has crime, certain areas, just like in Philadelphia, we have Kensington, we have North Philly. Same thing in the city where I am. But, I could buy triplexes in those bad areas, right, for $20,000. They wouldn't really appreciate that much. The cash flow would be great, but then I have to deal with tenants that probably wouldn't end up paying. So I stay on the nicer side of that area. They appreciate because all the investors want them in that area, you know what I mean? And luckily, knock on wood, it's been going well, and
So you're picking them up for 40 grand. How much are you putting in? And then what are they renting for when you're done?
so I put about 6,000 into each unit. I'm not a slumlord by any means. It's interesting because if I were to do the same amount of work here where I am in Bucks County, 6,000 would probably be around $20,000 worth, probably be about 20 grand here. But you would think the cost of wood is the same here as it is there, right? But it's not. Kitchens would be the same here as it is there. It's not. I don't know. I haven't done enough research to understand why it's so much less there. My houses are nice. They have nice, vinyl floors. Bathrooms are nice. Kitchens are nice. So I altogether in a triplex, I put $18,000 in it. So I'm into it, with closing about 63,000 after all renovations.
And it's worth 140, I think you said, and you pulled all your money back.
About 150. Triplex, yeah, I pull it all back out. And then from there, I buy at least four more. The goal is from every one I pull out, four more. And I put $20,000 on the next one and just keep it rolling. And when I go for these properties, whether it's a duplex, triplex, or quadruplex, I have one goal in mind. I don't do it by, you'll hear people say, I want it to cash flow at least 250 a door or 300 a door. I want that property to cash flow me after expenses, after everything's done. So I take in the full, 33%. I want that property to cash flow me at least $1,000 a month.
And are you sales manager?
So that's the thing, right? I'll be very open and honest. Some people won't agree with me. I don't like property management companies. I actually thought about becoming a property management company. Went a different direction. Obviously, I own a quadruplex in Detroit, and that's the only place I have a property management company, and I hate it. But I'm selling that property. What I do now is in these areas, I find somebody that is, it's all about relationships, just like every business in life, really. I found this guy who had an amazing story. He's from Cape Cod. The market crashed in 2008. He was in Cape Cod. It's a very big money area. He was a multimillionaire doing kitchens, and he had rentals in this area that I invest in. And he lost everything in Cape Cod. So he moved his family here, started his business. He was actually buying houses sub two. He was just taking over mortgages, right? He built himself back up in, I think, what was it, 5 years or 6 years to where he was financially in Cape Cod, just in a different part of town. So I find people that are investors that live there that also are contractors who can take care of the property. So I'm not paying 8 to 10% per door. That's the last thing I want. I want a nice relationship with somebody who's going to be honest with me, not take advantage of me. I pay him a yearly fee. One property on a triplex, for instance, he charges me $150 for the year. $50 a door. So, and that's it. And basically what he charges me for is to keep his phones on. That's what he likes to call it. You know what I mean? And he manages my properties. If there's an issue, they call him. He rents them for me. He does all that stuff. But it's just one individual. It's a family business. I grew up in a family business. So it's just nice to have that relationship there. And that's why I look for all the markets that I go into.
So you've joined different mastermind programs and different groups, and I know that you've explored the syndication route a little bit, but now you're BRRRRing and you're doing small multifamily. So tell me about that journey. What took you in that direction instead of going after the 50 units, 100 units? What took you in this direction, and what are your thoughts between the two?
So that's interesting. So to be completely transparent and honest, when it came to syndication, when I joined, and shout out to Yaden and Jennings, great guy. Everybody in the multifamily group, everybody's phenomenal, great people. Syndication, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I can curse on here, but scares the shit out. I'm just not there, if that makes sense. Look, 2008 could happen again, right? I like to think that it would never happen again, but it could happen again. I am confident enough in what I'm doing that if I wanted to do some type of syndication, I could do it in the area that I'm in. Using other people, I could definitely use syndication where I am and grow even faster. But I am currently bringing in enough cash flow that I don't need to, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I'm more looking for cash flow than I am for looking for my net worth, if that makes sense. And that might, I don't know a right way to say, it's not an ego thing, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm just looking to make a living, and the path that I'm going, and just keep that cash flow coming and growing it so I can pass on, to my kids, and my family is, one less thing to worry about. That's the main goal. Just syndication scares me. Not to say that I'll never get into it, because if it wasn't for that group, I would have never learned probably half the things that I've learned now. You know what I mean? Holding on to other people's money and doing all that, I think it's phenomenal. I think it's admirable. It just scares me. So right now, I'm just not there.
So I call it capital conversations because I like to talk to other people about how they fund their deals, how they look at capital, how they look at, various deals themselves. How are you funding these deals currently? Are you using all your own funds? Are you using private money lenders? Are you using banks? What does a capital stack look like?
I'm using all my own funds.
Right now, it's all my own funds. I have hard money lenders that are ready to go, when need be. I have the backup that if I need to go the route, I will. But right now, it's just all my own funds. And I've been fortunate and lucky enough that even though I'm using all my own funds, I don't really have much out there, if that makes sense. Put everything back out. Just keep.
It sounds like your cash conversion cycle is pretty quick, right? You're buying a property, you're turning it around, then you're taking to the bank and refinancing and pulling your money back out. Are you buying these all cash using your own money, or are you using some other financing method on the initial?
No, I'm using all my own money.
Nice.
I'm
Hey,
like,
so with that I'm sure that allows you to get really good deals because then you're the cash buyer. You can negotiate it down if you want to. Are you finding a lot of leverage when you're purchasing these properties by being a cash buyer, being able to purchase it quickly, or are you just finding them at great deals, great prices? Don't even really need to negotiate.
so cash deals, what I have found, I really don't need to negotiate. I'll offer ten to $15,000 less than anybody else is in that area. And it's a cash deal, and they'll go with me 9 out of 10 times. Having the cash and being able to get that table within 30 days is huge. They have picked me, like I said, 9 out of 10 times over other people. So having the cash is huge. That is huge.
And when it comes to finding the deals, so we talked about funding the deals, we've talked about managing them. When it comes to finding the deals, how are you going about prospecting for new deals, finding new properties to burr?
In that area or anywhere.
Overall, generally, what does that process look like for you?
So finding deals, I have a lot of connections in that one area. So multiple realtors, wholesalers are constantly they send me deals every day. I mean, I actually received an email a half hour before we jumped on here that had, it was 3 separate packages. One package was 8 single-family homes. One was, 10 duplexes. One was, 10 triplexes for, this for X amount of money. So the deals are always coming in that area, right? What I'm doing now is because I don't want to really put all my eggs in one basket, right? I know what's happening in that area, but I'm now looking more towards other areas. So I started doing research on the same type of area that I'm in now somewhere else, right? And just calling realtors, talking to realtors, learning more about the area, researching it online, realtors giving me phone numbers of people who are like, my contractors or whatever that I have in the larger area that I'm in now, and just making connections that way. And what I will end up doing is using ringless voicemail and Crexy, just like I did there, and just calling people. But I like the avenue of going ringless voicemail. Haven't tried it yet. This would be my first time trying it. A guy from another group that I'm in, Pace Morbius group, he's got me kind of hooked up on explaining, and really teaching me how good it is for him. So I'm going to give that a shot, and I think it's really smart. I think that's how I'm going to pull up. I'm going to pull more deals quicker in the next area that I am.
So when you're scaling from 5 to 55 units and then like 3x that in a year, I would imagine a lot of things break and you have some issues that pop up and you have some things they solve for. What are some of the things that you've experienced in the past year where maybe you had to get creative or get a little scrappy to fix it?
Knock on wood, I haven't really had any major things break. I only had one pipe break. That was from a triplex to the street. It was insured by the water company, so it cost me $50. And they came out and fixed it for me. Other stuff, I mean, like I said, when I do the rehabs to the houses, I have the same values as the gentleman who I work with, and the core values are very important. I am very making sure that things are not going to break constantly. Like I said, I never want to be a slumlord where I'm just like, just throwing paint up over top of crap. I'll rip the bathroom apart and put new pipes in so I don't have to deal with it later on down the line. I mean, come on, it's only $6,000 to redo an entire house there. You know what I mean? So I don't have constant issues, if that makes sense. Knock on wood. I think, and I'm sorry, the other big expense I had was a roof. And it's amazing. I just did my roof at my house here in Bucks County, and it was $22,000 for this roof. It was $8,000 in that area for the same thing. I don't understand. I get it, supply and demand in the areas that we live in, but I don't know. $8,000 is, and when you're cash flowing $1,000 a month, I mean, yeah, that's 8 months worth of cash flow, but I don't have to worry about a roof. And these are going to be long-term holds. I'm not getting rid of them anytime soon, so it makes sense for me. That roof's going to last another 20 years, 25 years, so I'm not worried about it.
And it seems like the properties you're going for, they're a mix of cash flow and forced appreciation. You're adding value, either by buying at a really low price or adding some nice stuff into it. Then the market itself is going up too. So you have like the perfect trifecta there.
Correct. And when I went into this, I wasn't even going for the equity. I wasn't even going for the appreciation part of it. Just got lucky that it happened. I did my research, this particular city, of course it had McDonald's, it had, Burger King, whatever. It had that, but didn't have a Walmart nearby that or a Lowe's. It was an hour away. You know what I mean? Um, but I knew that within the next year they were already passing and making areas to move these things in. So right now they're building their first Home Depot and they're building their first Lowe's, and Walmart's on the way there, which is all that does, I know, is up the value of the homes as well. So while they're, while Pittsburgh is getting, the values there are going up, the city that I'm in right outside of Pittsburgh, same thing's happening. That would just, I don't want, I mean, that was kind of just luck. You know what I mean? But that was definitely something really cool that ended up happening while I was doing what I was doing.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk about due diligence. So as you're looking at these properties, what does your due diligence process look like? Is it a walkthrough? Are you hiring someone else to look at it? Are you having your contractors check things? What does that look like as you're looking to buy a new one?
My due diligence, so I haven't even been there yet. Um, I plan on going out there actually within the next month or two. Finally, my guy's been really on me because I have so many units out there. He really wants me to come out. My due diligence is I have him go in. He tells me what's going on, what this looks like, what this looks like, how much this is going to be, how much work. I already know what the rents are going to look like if I decide to go Section 8 or if I decide not to go Section 8. I already know basically where I'm going to be at. So it's just looking at it, figuring out, where the rates are at that point in time. If the interest rate makes sense, if the price makes sense for the interest rate, I'm buying it. So I don't care if the interest rate is 8%, 10%, 7%. If interest rates go down, I'm just going to refinance and it's just going to do better for me, right? If the property makes sense at the interest rate and meets my criteria at where the interest rate is today, I'm going to buy it. There's no reason not to.
So these towns that you're buying in, these cities or small towns that you're buying in, what would you say is the average population in that area?
The average population is 19,000. So yeah,
Fairly small.
like it that is small.
The other part I was going to ask is you mentioned Section 8 earlier. How many of your 55 units currently are Section 8?
Only 3.
3. And how has that experience process been so far?
The process has been great. So it's interesting because this town has a lot of different types of programs. The Section 8 that I have, they're all retired military guys. Okay, so I'm happy to give those guys a place to live. They put their lives on the line for our country. You know what I mean? I'm not a huge fan of Section 8. I don't want somebody going into I've heard so many horror stories of, Section 8, people going in, they don't care because they're not paying for the house and they're just tearing it up. This program that I got myself in, which is still kind of Section 8, which is Section 8, it's just a different part of Section 8, are for these guys. And I will continue to keep giving these guys a place if I have. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I would just keep going, how I'm going with, like I said, there's plenty of renters,
And tell me about your experience with Section 8 so far. With the Section 8 rents, how have you gone about evaluating what your rents are going to be with Section 8? Can you just walk the listeners through the process? Yeah, through the process of figuring out what are your Section 8 rents going to be, anything else regarding when you're evaluating a property and putting a Section 8 tenant in there. What are some of the considerations that the audience should look at as they're looking to do that?
So what I really look at is I know how much Section 8 would pay me for a 1-bedroom. I know how much Section 8 would pay me for a 2-bedroom. I know how much Section 8 would pay me for a 3-bedroom. Again, I look at the property as a whole. So if I have a triplex and all 3 are 1-bedrooms, right? They're paying me $692 a month, and they're just wiring it right to me, right? So it's about, it's a little less, but it's about $2,100, right? The tenants are still responsible for all their own utilities. I'm not paying their utilities for them. So to have that all in there, it's just guaranteed income, and it still beats the mark of over 1,000 or more that each property needs to cash flow. That's really all I look at.
And when you're looking at, say, adding another, 3x to your portfolio in the next year, what are some of the considerations that you have in scaling up? Are there any things that you'll be changing? Are there any people that you'll be adding to your team? Any ways that you're looking at markets differently? What does that look like for you?
no, I'm going to keep doing exactly what I'm doing. I don't have anything that I'm looking at to change right now. Um, one of the reasons why I do like these smaller areas that, I know that we talk a little bit. It's not like you hear people say like it's recession, this could be recession for or this or that, right? People are always, I like these areas where people are always going to need to rent. All right. If 2008, for instance, were to happen again, history does repeat itself. I pray to God that it never happens again. But that's one of the other reasons why I got myself into cash flow instead of the equity side of this business. If that does ever happen, I still have the cash flow covered. I'm not losing money on my equity, if that makes sense. So I will just continue down the road that I'm heading, and just keep building, just keep putting those blocks on, um, as I keep going. I'm not, as of now, I have not taken any money out of the real estate business. I'm still chef. My goal is in 2 more years to have made, a significant change. So right now, all the money that is coming in, I'm putting it back into buying more units. And I'm just going to follow the model that I've been doing. But the only, and it's not really a change. Like right now, I'm looking at a park. It's not a mobile home park, but it's prefabbed homes. I'm looking at a lot right now that has 14 prefabbed homes on it. The cash flow on that after expenses is going to be $8,000 a month if I bought it at the price that they're asking for. You know, um, for me, at this point, that's a home run. I mean, that's $96,000 a year, right? Um, so for me, that type of thing is a home run. So I'm just going to continue on doing there.
So you've got this portfolio of 55 units currently, and you've done that while keeping your job.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the job itself and how it's been balancing the two.
As far as being a chef.
Yeah, just if you tell me a little part about like the time considerations, like what does that look like being a real estate investor while also having this job?
So the cool part about being a real estate investor is in the beginning, it was interesting. Everybody was, these gurus and things that I would go to, they would say to me, you only have to work 3 hours a day, 5 days a week on your real estate business. So, 15 hours a week on it and you could be making, X amount of money. Right. So when I first started in real estate, I mean, I was between working in the restaurant, 50, 60 hours a week. I was also, doing real estate another, 40, 50 hours a week. Wasn't sleeping very much when I first started until I kind of figured out the road that I'm on now. My day now is a little bit different. I'm not really working nights anymore, which is interesting in the restaurant business. I'm there on the weekend nights, Friday and Saturday night, but during the week I'm not. So I'll go in the morning. I'll do the things I need to do, my ordering, you know, making sure my team is doing what they're supposed to be doing, making sure my kitchen is running properly the way it is. Um, taking care of the guys, any questions they have. And then, I'll come home at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll work on my real estate for, you know, 3, 4 hours a day. And I'm home. So I'm here with my family because I'm home. If I need to take a break from making phone calls or talking to people or whatever it is that I'm doing, it's fine. I'm home. I can talk to them in and out. So realistically right now, I am still putting a ton of time into real estate, but it doesn't feel like a job to me, if that makes sense. I just love it. So while being in the restaurant is a job, I don't want to say it's a drag because I love food as well. Um, that is a job. Real estate is more like I'm just I'm having a ball with it. If that makes sense. So
What key part about owning real estate? What draws you to it?
to real estate, just the so many different ways and avenues that you can do things and the people that you can help and the relationships that I made. Um, the enjoyment I've been able to help people who've, weren't able to do certain things and now they can. There's just so much to be excited for when it comes to real estate. It's just, there's so many creative, fun ways to do it. And the relationships that I've made in real estate and the friendships that I've made in real estate, I'm really having a great time. really having a great time doing it.
So let's say someone wants to get into real estate or they want to do what you're doing, burring a ton of properties at one time. What advice would you have?
What advice? I think my biggest advice would be to get yourself a mentor. Just go in blind. Like I said, everybody mistakes in this business now some way, and you learn from your mistakes, and you're still going to make mistakes in this business. You're going to learn from it. Just like any business you're in, you take your wins and your losses. My biggest advice is to get yourself a mentor and build as many relationships as you possibly can. Go to your local, real estate meetings. Get yourself hooked up with wholesalers and realtors and really put yourself out there and learn as much as you possibly can, then get into it. Don't just take your money, jump to it, and then turn around and be surprised when you've lost your money, because you really didn't know what you were doing in the first place. You just saw a video of Grant Cardone, for instance. Oh, you can, Grant Cardone's great. Don't get me wrong, nothing against him. I'm a fan. I've learned a lot from him as well. It's not that easy. You really have to do your homework. And if you enjoy it, you will be successful and you'll learn. Just and once you find your niche, stick to that part of the real estate game. Once you have that and you can bring somebody on your team to help you with that, and you want to learn something else, do the same thing over again. Get into a group, learn everything you possibly can about this next side of real estate, and keep doing that. So there's plenty to learn. That would be my best advice.
Nice. And if the people want to get in contact with you for some reason, where would you direct them to?
Oh, I put my phone number out there. Anybody's welcome to call me anytime, or they can reach me on Facebook. My number is 215-346-654. That's my business number. You can call me, text me anytime. You can, hook up with me right here on Facebook or Instagram, or I'm actually on, watching you. I'm going to get myself, I have a LinkedIn profile, but that's for being a chef. I'm actually going to start a LinkedIn profile now for the real estate game. For the real estate business. And, you'll be able to get me there too. Just look me up. Josh Schubert. That's it. Buys anything multifamily. I'm happy to answer any questions and, happy to help anybody that wants, any information.
And if anyone wants to help you after listening to this episode, what would you say they could help you with?
What could they help me with? My next town to go into. My next town that is a lower income town that offers the cash flow that I'm looking for. That's what they could help me with. Absolutely.
Any other criteria for that town? Does it have to be in Pennsylvania? Could it be anywhere?
So it's interesting. So I was looking at, and I met some guys through our group and everything like that. I was looking to get into the Ohio market, and the laws have changed there so much. Again, I don't want a property manager. So I don't want to go into any market that I have to have a property manager for. I like being in Pennsylvania because I can get wherever I need to go in PA pretty quickly. I'm not opposed to going outside of PA. Just depends on where, I guess. But really, yeah, I'd rather just stay in PA if I can. PA, New Jersey, they have to be landlord-friendly states. I don't want to go into New York or anything like that, even though that's, that's next to us. But Jersey, I would definitely go into, Trenton area if it made sense. It really doesn't make sense right now, but areas like that. So anybody saw anything in those areas, give me a call.
Any particular size that you're going for in terms of either purchase price or number of units?
I look to be at the highest 40,000 per door. That's on the highest. I am currently buying, between $10,000 to $15,000 a door. I'm not opposed to going more if it makes sense. I have the capital to be able to do it. So why not? Right. Because it's all relevant. If it costs this much here, but still cash flowing me that, I can pull that back out and just keep going in that area. It's just more money. It's just more money invested in that certain area that I'm going to be in. If that makes sense.
Yep. Any final thoughts for the audience, Josh?
Final thoughts. no final thoughts. I mean, if you're interested and you want to learn about what I did, or, how or what I'm doing, how I started, I've only been doing this for, 3 years now, but really have been doing it for a year. I'm happy to help anybody that wants to learn. Final thoughts is, the more we help each other, the faster and better we'll grow. You know, Everybody has something that they're into that can help somebody else. If we all work together, you know, we can all be successful.
That's the truth. And I appreciate you hopping on and sharing your knowledge with us today. I know you've helped a lot of people who might be listening to this and thinking maybe syndication's not for me, or maybe single family homes aren't for me anymore. And now you've given them a different path by burring small multifamily houses and apartments in tertiary markets by yourself. So thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing your experience. And everybody, this has been Josh Schubert from Pennsylvania. We'll be back next week, next Thursday, for another episode of Capital Conversations. But until then, Josh, thanks for hopping on, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, AJ. Thanks for having me.